Hi everyone, Vincent here, and today I'm joined by the brilliant Esther Sarah Mingot. Esther is an expert life coach and is going to help us today discuss some challenging relationship problems. So welcome to the podcast, Esther. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Vincent, for inviting me in this occasion.
Oh, thank you for joining me. It's going to be a very important podcast, I feel, today, because sometimes when I'm spoke to via my audio coaching clients and when I read comments and emails, I often have a subject which I don't think is spoke of enough. And I think this is what we're going to be delving into today. And that is long distance relationships when people are not living close by. What would you say, Esther, are the challenges of long distance relationships?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and I think there are multiple challenges, right, when people end up living in a long-distance relationship. And, of course, challenges vary depending on the person, the relationships, the countries you are living in, the type of distance. Of course, it's not the same maybe living in the same country but in different cities than living in different countries, or maybe even living in different continents, right? Also, it is different if, for example, you have met the person for a short while and then the person goes back to the country where he or she is coming from, as opposed to, for example, living with someone together for a long time and then maybe one of the two finding a job in another country, right? So, of course, the situations are different and the problems faced might also be different. But here, I would like to point out to maybe some of the most common challenges that people face in general, right, when they are in a long-distance relationship. So I would say the first and most obvious challenge is the lack of physical closeness, right? So each of the persons in the relationship living in a different country, it becomes sometimes very difficult not being able to share everyday moments, just like simple things like a hug, physical intimacy, or just sharing a movie together, right, in the evening. This might be quite challenging. Then something that sometimes we don't think of, and it might not affect everyone, but it's the time zone differences. So let's say someone living in Spain and the other part of the couple living, I don't know, in the US, for example. We're talking about maybe 6 or 7 hour difference time zone. So it might be quite complicated when it comes to scheduling times for talking or maybe doing something together in the distance. I will talk about this later as a tip to make this type of relationships work. But when there is a huge time zone difference, maybe when one partner is, I don't know, working, the other might be sleeping, or when the other one has free time, the other is working. So this might be quite challenging to find the time to have a call, share moments together, or do some online activity together. Then another issue that some clients have come to me with is communication struggles. So even when we have a face-to-face relationship, we have misunderstandings, right? So let alone when we are living in different countries, different contexts. Misunderstandings can happen much more easily without face-to-face interaction. For example, sending each other WhatsApp texts or SMS texts, and even calls might be sometimes might be not enough, because of course body language has a lot of meaning, right? And in a way we are missing this when we are living apart, even if we are having video calls, which is something that we can benefit nowadays. Then there are issues related to trust and jealousy, right? Without daily interactions, insecurities can and will probably creep in. Maybe one or both partners might worry about infidelity or emotional distance, whether this is true or not, right? It's something like perception and distance can increase. So this is why this is kind of really related to the previous one, to keeping a good communication. It's crucial for avoiding these insecurities. Then another one, and it's related to the two ones, is the emotional distance and growing apart. So when everyone is living in a different city, maybe a different country, it's normal to have a different circle of friends, right? Because, you work in different places, you start to make new friends, new colleagues, and this might create this feeling of separateness, or like not being fully involved in the life of the other person. And this can create also this feeling of slowly growing apart from the other person's life, friends, working circle, working colleagues, and so on and so forth. Then there is the financial strain, right, which is something that we might not consider at the beginning, but it's actually important, especially for people who are in a long-distance relationship for a very long time, meaning years. So a crucial aspect of all long-distance relationships is to find moments to see each other, right? So it's not the same living in the same country and maybe in cities, 2 hours apart, than living in different countries or different continents. When it comes to this type of relationships, it is important to really make a financial strategy, if you like, or a financial plan to arrange trips, right, to visit each other. And this can be an important challenge if we're talking about, for example, different continents, right? Traveling, Spain to the US or UK to the US might mean 500 euros, 500 British pounds at least, right? That's if we are lucky and we catch a very good offer. But let's say something between 500 and 1,000. So this is something that we need to be ready to pay maybe at least twice a year, right, on each side, in order to be able to make it work. And then I left this one for the end, but I think it's probably one of the most important ones, and that sometimes we don't think about it because we're in love, right? And we just want to make it work without really thinking of the future. So in long-distance relationships, this uncertainty about the future, it's crucial. And when I say uncertainty, it's more this having like a common goal for the future. So it doesn't matter if both partners in the relationship are happy to continue to have a long-distance relationship. That's great, and if it works for both of them, that's fine. But for many people, having a long-distance relationship only works as long as it's temporary. So when I say temporary, it doesn't matter if it's a month, a year, or 2 years. But the two people have a common goal of maybe moving to the same country in 2 years' time or in 3 years' time. But having this final goal in mind, it's crucial, because when we don't, and that's a mistake that many people do, we enter into this uncertainty cycle, and then there is this huge doubt of when and how we're going to end up this distance, and we're going to move in together or live together. If there is no clear plan, frustration and anxiety can build up and become a bit unmanageable in the long term.
That is incredible, Esther, and thank you so much for sharing all of that value and information. And it really hits home. I speak with many of my clients who talk about long-distance relationships and the challenges and the struggles, and sadly, sometimes the breakups. And I say to them, in my belief, that a long-distance relationship does not last long-term, as in it doesn't last forever. Just as you were suggesting there, Esther, there has to be an end game. There has to be an end point of where the long-distance relationship does become a short-distance relationship. I just wanted to quickly ask you, Esther, just for your own opinion, what would you count as a long-distance relationship? What type of length and distance between people do you believe is kind of manageable in a quote unquote short distance relationship? And what would you say then becomes long distance?
That's a really nice and very interesting question, actually, because it's a very relative question, and also the answer, I would say, right? I think we all have different understandings on what makes it a long distance relationship. Let me give you an example. Two people might be living in the same city, but let us think of Mexico City, right, where I am based right now, and then you live one lives in the north and the other lives in the south. Maybe seeing each other takes 2 hours of travel, on a daily basis. So for some people, it might be, let's see each other every weekend, right? So even though these two people are living in the same city, it could be considered a long distance relationship in that they can only actually see each other in the weekend. While some people might be, based in the UK, for instance, living in different towns or cities, and then also be in the same sort of dynamics of seeing each other every weekend, right? So then we have a bit of like this relativity when it comes to the geographical space. Now, I would say when I speak from my experience and the clients that I've had with this type of challenge, it applies more when people are living in different countries, right? For some reason, when people are living in the same city or in, different cities, but within a manageable distance, people don't seem to be struggling so much with this distance, like geographical distance in between them. It's more when it comes to different countries, because it involves normally flying, which becomes more expensive, more time consuming. Also, we need to consider bureaucratic issues, right? When the other person is living in another country, maybe one of the persons is not allowed to enter the country because of migration regulations. So somehow the barriers become bigger. So normally, I think I can safely say that the longest or the furthest away the two people are in terms of countries, for example, so geographical distance, the more difficult it becomes to manage the relationship, I would say.
I think that's a really great answer. And I've come to that same conclusion when I've spoken to my clients. When people live in different countries, you don't just have time differences potentially. You also have situations where maybe one is not allowed to go and visit the other due to laws and rules. But I suppose as well, in very large countries like maybe the US or Canada, I suppose if you are on the East Coast and your partner is on the West Coast, okay, you're not going to have the same problem with laws. The laws are somewhat the same across the country, but the time zones, I guess somebody living in New York and somebody living in California, if I know my geography somewhat, I think that's a 3-hour difference.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
In time zone, a 3-hour difference in the time zone. So I suppose, like you say, it's relative, isn't it? If you live in Mexico City or London or a very busy city, you could live in the same city, but it might be almost impossible to see your partner because it's just too busy and it takes too long to get through the traffic. Whereas you might live technically a long way away, but you have a transport system that allows you to see your partner more regularly, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, that's totally right. And as you were saying, right, in really big countries, living like let's say East Coast, West Coast in the US, it's also the financial strain, right, that I was talking about, because like traveling from one place to another, let's say New York, San Francisco, might take, something like 5 hours, 6 hours flight, plus the cost of the flight, right? And the time difference, as you were saying. However, I would think that sometimes when people are working, and especially nowadays, right, when there is, many of us are lucky enough to have remote jobs, right? A possibility might be to move from, or to maybe not to move permanently, but let's say the person living in the eastern coast might move to spend 1 month, right, living with the partner in the west coast while they work remotely. And in these situations, issues related to bureaucracy, to working permits or permissions to migration permits do not apply. So in a way, it becomes easier, although of course, as you were saying, the time difference and the travel distance, it's really a challenge, even if it's in the same country.
Yeah, it's certainly difficult. And what you were saying earlier about, trying to keep that connection together, the way you was describing it, it made me think, I suppose the next best thing to seeing each other in person is probably a video call rather than a regular telephone call, or certainly more so than texting. I suppose with a video call, at least you can see into each other's eyes, the window to the soul. I suppose, would you agree on that, or how do you feel? What would you say is the best type of communication for two people living apart?
Well, I always say there's no perfect recipe for everyone, right? Some people are super happy texting each other regularly, and they don't want or they don't like having video calls. And if it works for them, that's totally fine, right? However, as you just said, having video calls might make it a little bit closer. And this is not only because you, of course, see the person, and you can just see maybe what kind of clothes they're wearing, which becomes kind of a nice sort of like input, right, for our imagination. Right? So let's say you have a short video call in the morning with your partner, and then you see that he or she is preparing to go to work, and then you can see the outfit she's wearing. It might just give you this idea of, oh, look, she looks like this today. And this is really nice to sort of like fit onto the relationship. Now, this being said, I always think, and this is really important, right, that everyone living in a long distance relationship should actually make or set realistic expectations for how often they talk and how. Now, let me elaborate on this a little bit. So daily check-ins are great, and I think it's recommendable, right, to have these. But it's also important to avoid feeling pressured to be available 24/7. For the partner. And this is because the minute you are living in different contexts, you will have different schedules, different responsibilities. Maybe, I don't know, you had a problem with a neighbor in the house, you're discussing with a neighbor, and then it's not nice when your partner is, demanding your attention on the spot. It creates a lot of pressure and frustration. So while regular contact is good, it's important also to be open enough to understand that you might not have the answer 1 minute later, right? So if you send a WhatsApp to your partner, how are you doing, how are you feeling today, whatever, or what are you doing now, it might happen that yes, he or she answers back in the next 5 minutes, but it might be that this is not possible because maybe she's in a meeting, or he's having an argument with the neighbor, as I just said, or anything can be going on in that particular minute in the other person's lives, right? So maybe sometimes what works is having maybe weekly schedule. And what do I mean with this? So, for example, let's say we agree to have an hour or an hour video call every other day, no? And as I said, there's no general recipe for everyone. It has to work for the particular situation in which the couple is living. But having these spaces of, today at, 5 p.m. my time, I'm going to have a date with my partner. who's living in another country, but we're going to meet at the same time. We're going to have a Skype call or a Zoom call or whatever video call you decide to use, and maybe even have dinner together, right, at the same time, if the time difference allow. So this is actually a really nice way to sustain this, not only communication, but also intimacy, if you know what I mean. So I think this would be one of the maybe most important tips when it comes to communication, or sustaining communication in long distance relationships. So keep it daily. Make your schedules every other day or every Monday or every day if you want to, as long as it works for both of you. But make sure it doesn't become an obligation or a pressure for the other, for each of the persons in the relationship. And also be aware not to expect an answer coming back in the next 5 minutes, because always consider that the other person is living in another context, in another reality. So the timing for you might not be the perfect timing for the other person.
That's really powerful information there, Esther. And you bring up two kind of sub-points, I think, that we could delve into a little bit. The first of which is intimacy and how best to maintain intimacy in a long-distance relationship. Because the difference between a platonic relationship and a romantic relationship, really, it's intimacy. You know, that's really the difference. So, firstly, how do we maintain intimacy in a long-distance relationship? And also, on a second point, do you find that there are more jealousy problems between people in long distance rather than regular relationships?
Okay, thank you, Vincent. So let me start with the second question first about the jealousy issue. So honestly, I don't know in terms of numbers, right, if this is accurate or not, whether there are more jealousy issues in long-distance relationships than in regular face-to-face relationships. I would say this is really a matter of how insecure, let's say, right, a person feels or a person is. Let me put it like this, like someone having insecurity issues as a general aspect in their lives, they're probably more likely to experience jealousy. It doesn't matter if the person is living with them or if it's living 2,000 kilometers away, right? And this is, of course, something that the side of the part of the relationship who is experiencing these insecurity issues is something that they should work on, right, on an individual and personal level. Now, when insecurities are coming because you don't see your partner, you don't see who their friends are, maybe I'm going to make up a situation, right? Let's say Jane and Joseph, right? Let us say Jane is living in the US, Joseph in the UK. And then Jane is sometimes talking to Joseph about this friend that she has at work and who is a man, right? And well, if she's not clear about the the type of relationship, the type of friendship she's got with this person at work, this might lead to Joseph feeling a little bit insecure, right? So this is when communication becomes super important, right? To kind of share, let's say, pictures of this colleague of yours. Look, this is my colleague from work, and that's all we are, and I did this with him today. We are doing this project together, but just make it clear, right, to the other person. I think this is key for maintaining this sort of like feeling of security on the other person. And this applies to every other thing, right? Like when you have a new circle of friends, it is highly important to maybe even arrange a day to introduce your friends to your partner and have like a group video call or something like this, no? Anything can work as long as your partner does not really delve into these insecurities, which are normal, right? And linking to this, I will go to your first question, which is how to build intimacy. So, of course, intimacy and sharing your emotions, your feelings, your life with your partner might be also a way to reduce this insecurity. Now, how to keep this intimacy alive when you are living in different countries or different cities or different continents. So I would say it's important to have deep emotional conversations that go beyond everyday topics, right? And just like I said before, it's important not to overdo it either, right? So because it can become burdensome, right? If you, let's say, the insecure partner is sort of like insisting to have this reaffirmation, right, on their like faithfulness, let's say, of their partner on a regular basis. That might be too much, but maybe every now and then, just having these deep emotional conversations about how you're feeling, what is making you feel insecure, if there's anything, maybe the other person can actually share with them, look, maybe I'm also feeling insecure, right? So the opening these spaces for honest conversation is crucial to keep intimacy alive. I would say also maintaining physical intimacy online, right? So nowadays with video calls, internet, there are multiple ways, right, to keep this type of, I don't know, maybe sharing sexy pictures of yourself or sexy text, like how do you call that, sexting, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, could be actually really nice ways to keep this intimacy alive. Now, this being said, I would always suggest, right, that when it comes to sharing pictures or sharing texts or other type of visual material, right, with your partner, it is important that you really, really trust your partner 100%, right? Because there have been many cases where, after a breakup, this sort of information is shared publicly as a sort of revenge. So we want to avoid this sort of situation by making sure we are not sharing this type of videos, pictures, whatever, 2 months after meeting someone, right? But after we have a real relationship going on and we are sure we really trust our partners. Then another way to build intimacy, which, from my point of view, can go beyond this sort of more intimate conversations or sharing of videos or pictures, could be actually finding ways to do things together apart. So, for example, watching a movie or a TV series or something like this can be a super nice way to share a moment together. And how can this be done? So, for example, you can first have a conversation on the phone or WhatsApp, as we are doing right now, and then decide on a movie. Like, so let's say today, Friday night, that's of course if the schedules allow, let us watch, the last episode of whichever TV series we are watching. Or let us watch a movie that we both want to watch. So, as we are talking, we sort of synchronize, let's press play now. So, you make sure that you're both watching the same thing at the same time. And why is this nice? Well, first of all, because you can actually make comments or say things at the same time. You can even tell the other, can we pause the movie for 5 minutes? I need to go to the bathroom. And these sort of like small interactions make a huge difference in that it really feels that you are actually sharing the movie together. Expressing love and appreciation can also be, it's actually something really nice to build intimacy. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but something that I have done myself in my own long-distance relationships, but also I have clients who have engaged into this type of practices, and everyone tells me it's great to do it and to receive it, is to sending handwritten letters or postcards.
Oh.
Or maybe some small surprise gift, right, that you can order in Amazon. But honestly, I think sending a handwritten something, it's really, really personal and intimate, because it's not only the fact of sending it and receiving it, it's the whole process that goes with it, right? Let's say I'm going to send a nice postcard for my partner. First of all, I'm going to go to the shop to buy a nice one that I find romantic, that I find he or she likes. Then go home, take my time to write it, to put ideas into paper. And, well, of course, handwriting anything, it's also very therapeutic, right, in any possible way. So, it's a huge process that goes with writing letters. Then going to the post office, buying the stamp, sending it, and then the other person receiving it. It's like a tiny ritual that it's actually very, very meaningful and can help enormously to build intimacy. So I think those things could be, for now, some of the tips that I would give for building intimacy.
Wow, well, thank you, Esther. That is so powerful. Once again, the information that you're sharing, the tips that you're giving, of huge value. And even if somebody is listening right now who isn't in a long distance relationship, you never know when you might be. Maybe you're single and maybe you'll meet somebody who you get into a long distance relationship with, or maybe you are in a relationship and unfortunately you don't know what's around the next corner, and that is that one of you has to move away for work. So
exactly.
It could happen to any of us at any time. So this information, I think, is really, really important to digest and understand. Now, if people do have a long distance relationship, but then they decide to close that gap and they decide to move for love, so to speak, Esther, what would you say are the main problems that people face when they move for love?
Yeah, Vincent, that's really it can actually be a difficult situation for both partners, right? And just like I said before, there are many types of long distance relationships. There are also many types of situations in which one or both of the partners move somewhere else for love. Now, the situation might be that both partners move from their place of origin to a third city or country, right, to start a life together. Now, sometimes people might think this is an ideal situation in that both of them are on equal footing, let's say, right? So both of them move to a neutral place where none of them has a network, none of them maybe has a job, none of them has friends. So they are both starting from scratch, right? Mm-hmm. So in a way, this puts the power balance in the relationship more equal and between the two of them. Now, while this might be let's say, I'm not sure if ideal, but maybe more fair in terms of power relations for both of them, well, it's maybe not the most common thing. Why? Well, because first of all, job, right, or work. It is a bit difficult that both people find work in a third or neutral country at the same time, right? And again, it might be complicated to move to a third country without a job because of financial constraints, right? So while this situation might be a little bit maybe nicer in an ideal world, it's not the most common one. The most common situation that I normally work with my clients is when one of the partners moves to where the other partner works. No, normally it's like this. It doesn't matter if it's the country of origin or not of the partner, but it's where the other partner goes. So then the person who moves, or let's call him or her the follower, right, just for simplicity, might face a lot of challenges. So here I'm going to just name a few based on, which are the main challenges that I hear from my clients. I would say the first one, or the most common one, is this dependency on the partner, on the working partner, right? Because, when we move to another country for love, we have to leave our family, friends, support network. Often we need to leave our jobs because they don't allow for us to do it remotely from another country. And at least for some time, we will be fully dependent on our partner. And when I say fully dependent, I mean not only in terms of financially dependent on them, but also in terms of, I don't know anyone in this new country. The only person I know is my partner. So in terms of emotionally speaking, socially speaking, your partner becomes your life, right? At least for a while. Without a job and an existing social network in the new country, it's very easy to fall into this trap of emotional and logistical support. Now, here, what can be done is to, of course, try to build your own support system, joining maybe social groups in your neighborhood, or maybe finding people who speak the same language, or even people who are from your own country, right? But what is important is to try to start to build your own life. Try to have your interest, because finding a job, it might not be so easy in the short term, right? So while you cannot do nothing about it other than sending CVs, right? You can do something about maybe starting a new hobby. Joining, I don't know, your football club in the neighborhood, or joining a painting group. Anything works as long as you start building your own tribe, let's say, in the new country. Then another big issue that I encounter with my clients is that oftentimes people, the followers, so people who move for love, have to make important career and professional adjustments. Let's just call it like that. When you move to another country, first of all, you might have to spend some time fixing your migration situation so that you are able to work in the other country. That's if you're lucky that you can work. But let us assume that you are allowed to work. Even if you do, maybe your academic certificates are not recognized in the new country, right? So it is important to bear this into consideration and to have a plan on how you're going to make this transition. Because maybe you can still do something similar to what you were doing before, but not exactly the same, right? So it's important to have an open mind and, open this sort of research for work opportunities to other fields that are not 100% what you used to do before. Maybe you need to consider starting remote work or freelancing if it's not possible, right, to work in the country. And worst case scenario, you might even consider studying again. I mean, maybe not a full degree, but maybe some courses which allow you to open doors in the new labor market where you are living right now. Another challenge is this, feeling of homesickness or loneliness that one might experience in the new country. So while the working partner, like the partner who didn't move, let's say, might have family, friends, colleagues at work, this is normally not the same for the follower or the partner who moves. So it's kind of normal, right? But for some people, it might create these feelings of loneliness, isolation, which might become even bigger if you're moving to a country with another language, right? In these cases, what it's important is to maintain, at least at the beginning, right, regular contact with your loved ones in your origin country via phone calls, video calls, whatever it is, but not to overdo it, because these might also end up leading to the creation of a parallel life, right? So you're having your new life with your partner in the other country, and in parallel, you're having your life back home. And this is really problematic. Why? Because in a way, you are mentally stuck back home. And somehow it can feed into these ideas of, when I go back, I will do this. When I go back, I will do that. And then you never end up seeing your current place as your place, which is in the end the place you chose to move, right? So it's important to find a balance so that you continue to keep these relationships alive, which are important for you anyways, right? But not end up into this idea of, well, I don't want to be here anymore and I'm planning my return someday. So it becomes really a blurry idea in your mind, which ends up really preventing you from integrating or from starting a new life with your partner in the country of destination, let's say. And then I would say, and this is also related to having a long distance relationship, one of the main challenges is not having a clear future plan. So when you move to another country for your partner, it is very important to have it very clear that yes, you might be moving because you want to be together with your partner, but you're also an independent person and you have a life of your own, right? So while you move with your partner, you must also start to have a plan, a future plan for your life. And that means, well, either if it's like you're going to retrain, I don't know, as whatever thing you want to retrain, or you're going to find a job in this, or you're going to start a business. That's also possible, right? Online business, for example, just to make it a bit easier for you. Anything, but it's important to have your own meaning, right? It's just the same as we were talking before with the long distance relationship. Why are you doing this? What is the goal of the long distance relationships? Are we going to move to a new country? Are we going to move to one of the two partners' country? Okay, step one covered. Now, make sure once you have moved that this is what you want, right? Not only your partner, because if you put all the reasons on your partner, like I moved here for you, then we start this blaming game, right? When you start to have like the follower, right? Let's say you start to have problems to find jobs, you don't have friends, you feel lonely. It is really very, very easy to blame it on your partner if you only moved for him or her. So my point is, move for love. It's great. It's a nice experience, but always have your life plan as a person, not as a partner, as a person.
That is amazing, Esther. You know, the value, and I've been saying this throughout the podcast, the value that you are giving, especially for people who are in this situation, but even those who might not be at the moment. Like I said, you never know how your life might alter.
Exactly.
You know, the advice, the tips, it's been absolutely incredible to hear your thoughts, your points of view, and your support that you can clearly give. It's very, very valuable. If there was somebody who was listening now, Esther, who wanted to have life coaching from you, what would they do? Do you have a website or social media and anything that you do say right now, I will put into the description. So if you're listening, just click into the description and there will be a link of how to contact Esther. But what would you say people should do if they would like to speak with you directly?
Well, I actually have my own website, which is mtacoaching.com. So that's quite easy. And this MTA, actually, I would like to explain. It comes from the Spanish short for Mañana también abrimos, which is basically the personalized translation for a very famous quote that we can hear by Scarlett O'Hara in the movie Gone with the Wind. And the quote goes like this: tomorrow is another day. I always like this movie very much, and this character in particular. I think it's the representation of strength, resilience, and like never give up, right? No matter what comes in your life. And this is actually the name of my website in Spanish, Literally translated would be we're also open tomorrow. But yeah, I think that a close translation in English that makes sense to everyone is tomorrow is another day, right?
Mm.
And but maybe for an English-speaking person, it might be a bit difficult to find it like that. So the name of the website is MTA Coaching altogether and small print.com. And there you can find me, you can see which services I offer, and you have a contact form in there which you can fill up. I also have I'm on social media, mostly on Instagram, and also on Facebook, which you can find me with Mañana También Abrimos. I can send you the written form for this, so I think it will be easier for any listener who is interested to have a look at my social media and also my website.
Oh, thank you, Esther. That is great. And like I've been saying throughout, the value you have given and giving to us, it's something that you can't put a price on, because if you're in a situation like this and you're struggling, you need to find the best way through, and the advice that you are giving and the tips are clearly going to give people in this scenario the best chance of success. Trying to make a success of a relationship which is long distance, or maybe it's now closer by because you or your partner has actually moved for love. This could be really, really important, along with the other life coaching aspects that I'm sure you give as well. It's been, incredible speaking with you, Esther. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Vincent, for the opportunity. And yes, indeed, I tried to. It's, as I said all through this conversation, right? It is highly dependent on each particular situation. I just tried to give maybe general tips that I would say everybody can use and apply. But of course, personalized life coaching for long distance relationships and for people moving for love is really useful. I mean, I have experienced it myself. I have gone through this sort of situation of moving for love, moving for work as well, right? And the challenges still remain. And life coaching has helped me a lot, right? To navigate these situations, because it's a very big change, right? When we are moving for love or living in a long distance relationship, and normally nobody teaches you how to navigate these situations. And something that happens is that sometimes it becomes overwhelming. There are so many things to think about: migration situations, the geographical distance, managing jobs, managing emotions, managing relationships, also family relationships, right? Because when you leave, you still have your family back home, like mother, father, brother, siblings, sisters, whatever, right? So I would say life coaching can be really, really powerful to help you navigate all these massive changes coming into your life.
Oh, well, that is brilliant and well put in how you describe life coaching. I mean, I look at it as a concept similar to personal training, which we all know for our physical body. I would say life coaching is almost like having a personal trainer for your mind. And we can all do with a little bit of that, to help us through. So thank you once again, Esther, for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I just want to say on behalf of everybody listening, thank you so much for everything you have shared today.
Thank you, Vincent.